Hey, yo, it's good, everyone. Twisted here with the Open Sorcery, and today I want to go ahead and talk about Allah. Not necessarily just the deity from the religion of Islam, but going ahead and talking about an acronym which sprung up within the past, I'd say, 50, 60 years or so, I believe, that is based on the name of this particular deity, what have you, but as we go through it, you'll understand why it came from there. But yes, Allah and the concept of the body of God, and I guess you can say my own personal spin on this as opposed to the original, context of the acronym in of itself. So, Allah, right? Let's go ahead and break it down into what that stands for as an acronym. And this is, so let's go with the actual letters of the word A.L.L.A.H. Now, when we go ahead and we break it down, that stands for arm, leg, arm, head. Now, when it comes to that particular acronym, you may be familiar with that if you've gone ahead and listened to quite a bit of hip hop and rap. But before it went into that sphere of things, into the musical realm, the roots of the term, for the name of the deity, Allah itself, originate within Islam. But when it comes to the acronym of Allah, it comes from its Afrocentric subgroup called the 5%ers, who are formerly known as the 5% Nation and also Nation of the Gods and the Earth, or Nation of Gods and Earth. Now, when it comes to going ahead and utilizing this acronym in of itself, right, I personally don't know the original date in which it was conceived and or originally spoken of in arm, leg, arm, head, in reference to it being the body of God, or this is God's body, what have you, for Allah. But at least as far as it states on Genius.com and having a copy of this mission statement, it says right here, starting around 1987, this mission statement appeared in every issue of the Nation of Gods and Earth's newspaper, The Word. And within the creed itself, it states that the black man is God, and his proper name is Allah, arm, leg, arm, head. Now, in going ahead and looking at that origin, right, and all that sort of thing, while their particular intention is that of, having the black man seen as God, or having Africans or African Americans seen as God, I'm going to go ahead and take the race out of it and more so generalize it into human beings, what have you. Now, when it comes to, how it kind of progressed or kind of became more so well known, of course, this is the sort of teachings that were propagated by RZA and the rest of the Wu-Tang Clan, back in the 90s, as well as many other hip-hop MCs throughout its history and what have you, including, before Wu-Tang came about, Rakim, kind of a little more so modernly Westside Gunn, and many others throughout, their music catalogs, what have you. And that not only Islam, but, the Nation of the Gods and Earth, the 5%ers, as well as the Nation of Islam, a similar organization, went ahead and, their lessons, their teachings permeated throughout many of hip-hop artists' catalog, and just, alongside Christianity, as well as Black Hebrew Israelites, and so on and so forth, have kind of, influenced the musical landscape and what have you. And not limited to those religions or groups or what have you, but they definitely have had a strong prominence within it. Now, when it comes to, say, I guess even more so, not only just modern, but a sort of, higher profile song that went ahead and featured this concept in of itself, and I guess you can say not only just what pops immediately into my head when going ahead and thinking of the acronym Allah, or arm, leg, arm, head, this is God's body. This comes, from the song Heaven by Jay-Z from his 2013 album Magna Carta Holy Grail. And to that, I will go ahead and leave a link to either Genius for the lyrics or to YouTube to go ahead and listen to it. Either or, in the particular description for YouTube posting of this. However, when we think about arm, leg, arm, head, and this being God's body, right? Those are components and limbs and appendages of the human body, of course, right? And when we think about like depictions of that, if you want some sort of visual to kind of like use as a reference, not necessarily a perfect reference, but I guess you can say the objective was that of a perfect representation of humanity, or an artistic manner of it. They look no further than Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, which previously I kind of touched upon in some aspects and elements back quite a while ago in the history of T.O.R. and open sorcery. And that, I believe it was titled A Rose-Shaped Star, Venus, Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and the Solar Eclipse in Scorpio. And to that, of course, I can leave a link in the description for you to go listen to that in its entirety, right? But just for the sake of the topic and to briefly cover that image, what have you, it goes ahead and showcases, the 5 appendages: arm, leg, arm, head. Not only just the body of man, but the body of the divine itself, the body of God, right? And granted, it showcases kind of extra, a couple extra appendages in there as well, but I believe those are more so for the manner of movement that could be had, you could say, in regards to that. But that was Leonardo da Vinci's Renaissance era depiction of the perfection of the body of man, what have you. And there's many different materials, there's many different resources breaking that down in of itself. But I just want to go ahead and mention it for the sake of, having some sort of visual component to go along with this. But going on, I guess you can say, to give a little bit more so of a keep it simple, stupid sort of manner of thinking about it or addressing it, right? Not only is it just the body of man in of itself, like in not just man as in men, the gender, but humans overall. So males and females, both divine in their own rights. But when we think about, Da Vinci and the Vitruvian Man, right? On a more so basic geometric level, it is more so encapsulating the pentagram and the 5 elements in the Western manner of thought, of spirituality, metaphysics, magic, the occult, what have you. And when we go ahead and we think about the pentagram, just very basically, right? The 5-pointed star within a circle. The 5 elements in of themselves. So if we're thinking about arm, leg, arm, head, that would be, the elements of earth, air, water, fire, and then if you want to say at the top, that would be more so of aether, right? More so the highest above the material, or you could say the highest within the material, that goes ahead and encapsulates, not completely, not perfectly, but the concept of there being more beyond the material and of soul and spirit's influence within the material realm in of itself. I guess, to put it as best I can at the moment. Now, in regards to arm, leg, arm, head, this is God's body, and the Vitruvian Man, and just this general sort of idea, right? Look no further than the beginning of the book of Genesis in the Old Testament, of whether it be the Torah or the Christian Bible or any other associated texts and versions and iterations that exist out there. And Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says very simply, "Let us make man in our image." And, the us in of itself, for those who are unaware, so I'm going to go ahead on a little bit of a detour, that when it comes to the concept within Christianity or Catholicism of there being God the Father, or just a singular God in of itself, you think of that as, once again, it's monotheistic, right? So monotheistic is religion with one particular God or deity, or at least conceptually. But when it comes to the actual origins of the term that is utilized in the original Hebrew and then translated in English, that term is Elohim, and that's more so of gods. It's more so of a plurality. So that is where the let us in this translation comes from. So let us make man in our image. But that is just about more so of the multiple expressions of divinity in of itself. It is both singular and plural in its nature. It's not either or, it's not black or white. But stepping back from that detour and kind of giving a little bit of 2 cents and food for thought on that, let us make man in our image. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. In relation to arm, leg, arm, head. This is God's body. The human body is God's body in of itself, right? Which includes you, I, anyone else, what have you, whomever they may be. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just read through Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 28, what have you, to go ahead and, give a little more so the total picture and context of that, where that particular segment comes from, and what have you. And here we go. This is the King James Version, and I honestly, there's so many iterations. This is by far one of, if not the most popular iteration. I'm just rocking with this one for sake of addressing it. So here we go. Verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And here we go, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And then verse 28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So, once again, let us make man in our image. Or, to kind of more so contextualize it in the manner I'm trying to present it. Let divinity make man in our image. Let divinity, the heavenly forces or the divine forces make man in such a heavenly and divine image, what have you, whether it be through manners of sacred geometry and all that sort of thing, the Fibonacci spiral that exists throughout, all the different natural, I should say, iterations and emanations and what have you of things that are about, or, within animals, trees, so on. But within us, we have the divine blueprint. We have that manner of God, that manner of divinity within us, permeating through in us, without us, and our exterior, our interior, so on. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and say that, staying within the hip-hop realm for reference points, that, Kanye West in of itself gets a lot of flack for stating that, I am a god, in his music discography and various songs and or moments. But, it's not as if he's incorrect. At times, he does take a bit of an egoic stance when he says it, and we gotta have that little asterisk and caveat. But if you go ahead and you state it yourself, right, and you're coming from a place of humbleness and recognition, you can go ahead and have that same core sentiment and share it, that you are in fact God, you are in fact divinity in of itself, right? And what have you, that we are vessels for the eminence and the essence of the divine, for the eminence and the essence of God in of itself, what have you, for the essence, excuse me, and the eminence of, the totality of everything in a microcosm, a macrocosm and the microcosm, right? We are the microcosm relative to the macrocosm, and going by the sort of magical, adage, as above, so below, as within, so without, that is how that operates. And we encapsulate all of that within us. And not only that, but we're a macrocosm unto other microcosms within our own body that we can determine and we can actually see and view and quantify, but even, on subatomic levels, even smaller than that. Once again, as above, so below, as within, so without. We have the manner and sparks of divinity within us, and even in those layers and manners, it has that within it in of itself. But I digress. I think, the point has been made thus far. But to kind of wrap it all up and all sort of thing, to give an example, you can say, or a figure, not only just the Vitruvian Man in regards to, a particular image or picture, what have you, but, I guess you can say an individual who encapsulates this. And since we've been talking quite a bit about different Abrahamic sort of things, what have you, in that realm, look no further than the very famous Jesus Christ. Or more accurately, when it comes to the original etymology within Hebrew, more likely named Yeshua ben Yosef, right? And this is the true nature of how Jesus Christ lived in, his incarnation as a man, right? So he was born as a man, and whether you want to say that he had the support of and the predetermination of heavenly or divine forces working towards his favor and or, him being the quote-unquote son of God, right? And all that. In a singular, like putting him on a pedestal sort of manner, right? He tapped into that innate divinity, that innate fire, that innate spirit within him, that soul spirit, to accomplish many great feats and greatly influence the world around him. And not only just in his day, but over time. And within that, right? The reason why I go ahead and bring up Jesus Christ or Yeshua ben Yosef is that, if you're living in Christ, if you're living, following the example of Christ, as is stated many times within Christian doctrine or, that sort of philosophy or what have you, then you go ahead and you tap into that soul spirit within you, whether you want to attribute it to the persona of Jesus Christ or just innately without giving it a name, that manner of divinity, that unspeakable, if you want to go ahead and say within the realm of Taoism, the unspeakable Tao or Tao. But I digress, none of the names actually go ahead and do it justice, but that manner of divinity inside of you where you connect to that, whether it be your higher self or whatever you want to call it. We have that capacity to access the divine fire that burns inside us and cultivate that light and shine it brightly for others to be inspired to get in touch with their own and to make, ripple effects, whether in the short term, mid-term, or long term, that can go ahead and improve the world in of itself and, make it, a more so evolved place than when we were here, initially in this form as human beings. But once again, this is all about the concept of A.L.L.A.H, arm, leg, arm, head. This is God's body. So not only for myself, not only for my usual co-host Devi, not only for anybody that we happen to know, but for anybody listening to this particular monologue and rant, you can say, you go ahead and you encapsulate God within yourself. Not necessarily from a stance of ego, not from a stance of overly being prideful, not necessarily going ahead and having being on top of a pedestal or huffing your own farts thinking your shit doesn't stink sort of manner, but in a way of going ahead and recognizing that there is more to you than just flesh and bone and blood and all these material earthly components that we very much focus on a day-to-day basis, or at least most folks do. But yes, you have that divine, you have God within you, you can tap into it, and there are a variety of ways and manners in which you can do so. You just have to be open and willing and receptive to go ahead and do so and start on that journey in whichever ways it goes ahead and takes you and is proper for you. So learn thyself, know thyself, trust your intuition, ask, for divine help and guidance and all that sort of thing. I think that in many cases, if not most. Those who do, those who seek, ye shall find. So once again, the acronym of Allah, arm, leg, arm, head, this is God's body. The body of God is us. The children of God are us, you can say. But I'll go ahead and leave it at that. So, this has been Twisted with Open Sorcery, and stay frosty, Neguses. Peace.